Hello, landlords. This is Ernie Garcia, your landlord attorney. And today we're talking all about tenant trouble, particularly trouble we get into with tenants with unpaid utilities. Let's get started. So, landlords, it's always the same. The whole thing starts with a dream. Maybe this is your first rent house, maybe it's your 10th. But every single time you start this process with this glimmer of just enthusiastic hope that you're going to make a ton of money, you're going to get a great tenant, and everything's going to go super awesome. And so you put your house on the market, and wouldn't you know it, sure enough, you get an interested person who wants to lease your property. And it doesn't take long before a contract is signed and you are closing the deal on your next rental. This is the time in the rental process that where you're just the absolute happiest. You're dancing a little bit into the room. You're jiggling the keys and excited to hand them over to your brand new tenant. You've signed a lease and things are taking off. Everything's turning up great. Tenants move in. They're unloading boxes and putting stuff away. And again, everybody's excited. High fives are being exchanged all over the place. You've gotten your security deposit and your first month's rent. What could be better than that? Unfortunately, it's only at this time that it dawns on you. You've got a multifamily unit. Maybe it's a duplex, maybe it's a fourplex or a triplex, but you've got a multifamily unit and you've only got one electric meter. Now, in your lease, you mentioned that your rent is X and that the tenant will agree to pay whatever it is they are billed to you for their utility costs. They know that they're not getting their electricity from the electricity company directly. They're going to pay it through you. So the bill comes in your name because although you've got multiple units, you only have one electric meter. And that meter feeds the entire duplex, so you split it in half, or maybe it's a fourplex and you split it evenly 4 ways. Maybe you've got a setup where you're distributing the rent by square footage. In any case, you can't just deny them electricity, and you've seen how much it costs to put in a new meter, and so you don't want to waste time, you don't want to waste energy. You're gonna move on. I mean, you do it because hey, everybody needs electricity, and so you're not going to deny anybody that. Naturally, you're going to do whatever you can to make your tenant happy. And in this case, you throw in the water too, because there's only one water meter, and it feeds the duplex or the triplex or the fourplex, and so you're kind of just stuck. And so whatever that bill is, you split it up and you divide it evenly among your tenants. And the truth is, for the first month or the second month or the third month, everything is fine. There are no problems. You're still in that honeymoon period where bills come in and bills get paid, and bills come in and bills get paid. But the problem occurs when that bill comes in, but it doesn't get paid. And so you're thinking to yourself, what can I do to fix this problem? So you go and you talk to your tenant that, things are tough, they tell you, and they're going to get to it. Give them a week, just give them a week, and it'll be fine. And so you think to yourself, what's a week? I can wait a week, not a problem. But the week comes and the week goes, and you start scratching your head. The first thought that pops into your mind is, can I just pull the plug? Can I just turn the lights out? No, you can't. That's not an option. It's never been an option. So you go back and you say, look, you asked for a week, I gave you a week, and now more time has passed. Do you have the light bill payment? And they say no. And so your mood changes. Things used to be great, but now they're not so great. You're feeling that anger. It's bubbling over. And you call, and what happens? Another month comes, and they're able to pay the rent, but they just don't have enough to pay the next electric bill, which is growing and growing and growing, as is your frustration. And you're running out of ideas. You can't pull the plug, and you can't technically evict them because they paid the rent. And now we're talking about something that's non-rent, and you're confused about what you do, and you've lost all hope. And you're just not sure how you're gonna fix this. Well, landlords, I think this is as good a time as any to remind you to like and subscribe if you are enjoying this particular video. I hope that you give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. You can also follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group. If you haven't done those things yet, we welcome you in all of these. Thanks so much. So where's the justice, you ask yourself? What am I going to do to finally get some justice in this? So you go and you find out what your rights really are. You're thinking to yourself, well, they've paid the rent, so I can't possibly evict them. But you do a little research, or you talk to an attorney and you find out, wait a minute, I do have rights here. There are things that I can employ. Maybe I can't do some of this self-help by pulling the plug, but if I read my lease, I can send a notice to vacate. Now, if you're going to send a notice to vacate, you're going to want to do it right. Don't dash headfirst into something that you don't understand. Make sure that when you do send your notice to vacate, it's based on the law, because you can't say, I'm terminating you for something that they're not required to do under the lease. So before you jump into that notice to vacate, make sure you jump into your lease. It's going to explain your rights and their obligations under the terms that were agreed to. Does your lease specifically require that they pay these utilities? Because if your lease is silent on the issue of utilities, that's just something you guys worked out on the side, you might be out of luck. But a well-scripted lease that mentions utilities and mentions that any failure to comply with any of the payments, including payment of utilities, is a default under the lease that would entitle a landlord to seek immediate possession. If that's what your lease says, or something like it, then at that point, yes, you can go and send a notice to vacate on the basis of that breach. If they don't cure the breach, they don't talk to you, they don't find any way to fix it, then you can move on to an eviction. But you've got other options maybe. Maybe your lease has an application of funds clause, and this is probably your best bet. Hopefully your lease describes your right as a landlord to take a payment. Your tenant may say, this payment is exclusively for rent. Please do not apply it to anything else. It's rent only. Thanks. And that's a lot to say in that little memo space. But if it does say that, do you have to honor it? Well, go back and see, does your lease allow you to apply funds in whatever way you see fit? If you have this application of funds clause in your lease, you can disregard whatever they write in that memo section, and you can apply the funds from their payment to their debts in whatever order you want. You want to take out unpaid deposits first. You want to clear out late fees. You want to handle unpaid utilities. You can do that. And now you've got a rent balance. Let's say the first $300 goes to these additional fees, including those utilities. You can say, sorry, notice to vacate for non-payment of rent. Now they're going to argue and say, no, I paid an exact amount for rent. To which you will respond, no, I have an application of funds clause that you agreed to in your lease. I applied your payment first to your outstanding fees owed for deposits or late fees or utilities. The balance that you're looking at is rent, which I applied last, leaving a balance of unpaid amounts. So you've come up with a good plan. You found in your lease a good basis for eviction. You've done the right thing and properly delivered your notice to vacate, and now it's time to file your eviction. When you're filing your eviction, make sure that you've sent a properly crafted and properly delivered notice to vacate, and that your eviction petition properly explains the basis for this eviction. Remember, you can't evict someone on the basis of money owed for utilities or deposits or late fees, but you can evict for non-payment of rent. You can also file for eviction for breach of the lease. Just make sure that your eviction is explicit. If there's some sort of breach, particularly the non-payment of rent, you've got a good cause of action for eviction. If you don't explain your basis well, or if you, again, say this is for non-payment of utilities and for money owed for unpaid utilities, you just can't move forward on that basis. But you can, if you have an application of funds clause, deduct utilities from a future payment first and then apply the rest to rent, leaving a rent balance. That's your absolute best bet. You may not be able to get a money award for unpaid utilities, but if it's a violation of the lease to go without paying utilities, you can say there has been a breach of a substantial provision in your lease. Again, you can't get a money judgment for that if you don't have your application of funds clause and can't otherwise recover that money from some source. But you potentially do have a good cause of action for eviction for the breach of that term. Once you're able to present your case to the court, again, once you've got a good basis and proper notice, the Justice Court should issue you a judgment and give you the right to secure possession. Once that judgment becomes final and unappealable, you'll have the opportunity to obtain what's called a writ of possession. You can utilize that writ of possession to gain possession back using the constables who will go and forcibly remove any people, any property from the premises, allowing you back in to recover possession of your property. Now, it may not be that you're made 100% whole, but the truth is, once you've gotten rid of a tenant who just wasn't a good fit, life is going to feel much, much better. The sun's going to shine a little brighter and things are going to sound a lot better, and even your food's going to taste a little tastier because you finally, gotten rid of a problem that, frankly, you kind of helped cause. But you're going to know in the future how to prevent this. The next time you have a dream to rent out property and you have a dream of securing the best tenant, make sure that you've squared away these issues with your utilities. Number one, if you can get your tenant to sign up for their own utilities, all of them in their own name, that is your best bet. But if you do have to, split utilities between tenants in this way, and there's really no good way around that, then make sure the lease mentions that non-payment of utilities is a breach for which they are subject to eviction. And then on top of that, if it's the case, whether you're paying their utilities or not in your name, no matter what, your lease should have an application of funds clause. So whatever amounts are unpaid, you can apply those first, leaving a rent balance, which is always your strongest argument in an eviction. Non-payment of rent, it wins the day most of the time. And if you are applying the payment in a way that the tenant has agreed, you're likelier to be successful at court. And I hope this was, I hope you find this absolutely helpful. Over and over and over again, we're going to deliver information for you that is going to show you how to navigate the landlord-tenant waters in a way that is the most advantageous for you. There's a video on your screen right now that you can click on to learn more about landlording. And until next time, happy leasing.